Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hey, what's up, Lock Shoppers? Let's do this. Us and JBM with you in the Lock Shop today, talking Four Nations face-off after we finally got it. Sid, McDavid, McKinnon, all together. Canada with a thrilling OT win over the Swedes, and we are underway in Montreal. USA, Finland tonight. A great start in the Lock Shop yesterday. Shout out Nate McKinnon for getting that first goal at over 8-1 in a minute in. And I'm already seeing the chat. Yes, there's many takes on last night's game, Jake. And the one take that we will both take a bow on for any of the dummies out there that said that this was just going to be like whatever. It's going to be like a glorified all-star game. It took all of about 10 seconds for us to realize last night that this is the best we've had in a long, long time. Gets me even more excited for next year's Olympics. But I'm not worried about what's happening in a year right now. I'm worried about USA Finland tonight. And oh my God, is it going to be insane in the Bell Center on Saturday night for Canada versus the Yanks?
Yeah, listen, when you're so right on a take and then it comes to fruition, it's a really nice feeling. We were in the group chat last night with Patty, taking some victory laps just to ourselves. This is a real hockey game. Doughty said it's one of the fastest hockey games he's ever played in his life. A lot of back and forth. We got a really good finish. I know Canada probably would have liked to get the 3 points in reg. I was a little frustrated about that, but they go on, they win it in overtime, and it was electric from the start. That goal in the first minute of the game, it took 12 seconds for the power play to score. We didn't get to see another power play after that. I'm sure Sweden smartened up after seeing what they were able to do. It was so exciting. People online, on Twitter for the most part, were pretty fired up. A lot of people saying, if you were one of those people being like, oh, this is just an all-star game, they're not going to care. These guys clearly care. They haven't played international hockey, worn the red and white in a long time. And finally, it's, we're getting to see it come to life here. I do feel bad. I want to say for Shea Theodore. I mean, that's a tough one. Just an awkward hit into the boards.
Yeah.
And you hope it's not a long-term thing with him. I know, I'm sure there's not a lot of Vegas fans in the chat, but it's more just a matter of, a tournament in the middle of the season like this. It is the one concern. You don't want to see your guys come out injured. And I think we can all agree if that was one of our guys, Jets, Oilers, or Leafs, we probably wouldn't want to see that either. But besides that, man, what an absolute ride. People got the full Marner experience. Welcome to my nightly watching session, folks.
Second star.
I know a lot of people are real mad that he was so useless. And then he scores the game winner. And it happens every time with Mitch. When he's having the worst game of his life, he does something big. And it's oh my God, where did that come from? Sid, I don't know, we could argue maybe the best player on the ice. I know McDavid was incredible as well. That's no offense to him, but 3 assists for Sid. All Sid. Primaries, come on.
Sid,
come on.
And listen, we can go through some of the goals and the who looked good and who maybe they need a little bit more. But I'm so happy this event was in Montreal. And listen, there's a lot of things I don't like about Quebec, and I don't like about Montreal, and I'm not a Habs guy whatsoever. But there is a mecca of hockey, and people around your area will say it's Toronto. It is Montreal, and that stadium, that arena, it has an atmosphere and a history, even though obviously the Montreal Forum was the main one. The Habs production team has always been the standard when it comes to retiring numbers or doing things. And oh my God, did they step up last night? And I'll say this about Sportsnet. Now, I've got some Sportsnet takes on the other side for after the game, which was embarrassing. But that to me was maybe one of Sportsnet's finest hours as the main broadcaster for the NHL. Like those cameras that they were using, like the ones that, you get when the guy wins the Masters and it focuses on them. It's like the cinematic stuff. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. And I mean, the way that they set that up with every fan getting that thing around their neck with the lighting, the light.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Dude, it was the coolest visually looking hockey environment I've maybe ever seen. And the Montreal fans, again, love them sometimes, hate them sometimes. They were incredible last night. And I mean, it really set, like, as I said, for anyone that was like, whatever, I guess I'm going to watch this, but I don't think it's going to be really good. Like, we didn't even need to drop the puck. I mean, bringing out the legend and the captain from each team. Your boy Matthews got a little bit of heat, but hey, he's the captain of Team USA.
That's all right.
And I mean, obviously there's a Leafs rivalry as well. And then freaking Mario coming out. I mean, Mario, like coming home to Montreal. And like, you want to talk about icons. Sidney freaking Crosby going up, shaking hands with Mario as the Canadian representatives. I'll bet half of Pittsburgh is cheering for Canada in this thing because of that. That is the neat thing. But everything they did before the game was so world-class. People shit on the NHL for a lot of things, and most of them deservedly. This, we got to give them credit for. With the exception of one thing. What was going on with the Canadian anthem last night? Can we quickly talk about that? Like, I've heard of the Beaches. I've heard of some songs. Like, I didn't know whether she was high or potentially having like a legit panic attack during the first part of the song. But I would love to hear people's thoughts before I give them mine. Like, if you're in chat right now, what did you think? What were your thoughts on the Canadian anthem last night? Because that was, I think the way I described it, maybe the most awkward anthem I've ever heard. And especially considering the environment, that would have been a time to get someone that was really going to knock it out of the park. I mean, whoever does the anthem regularly at Habs games would have been 10 times better than the girl from the Beaches who got the call last night.
Yeah, so listen, I watched the whole opening, Huss, and then the anthems came around, and I was kind of half listening, half watching. I was with my dad, and I did, like, you texted about the anthem, and I guess it just, like, completely slipped my mind that it was a bad anthem. And, usually bad anthems are talked about more than good anthems, as we've seen in the past. But, yeah, I don't have, like, a good take on the anthem, so I don't want to sit here and pretend like I do. But, I mean, I do want to say that opening with Tragically Hip, Courage, and all the old Canadian teams. If you want to go see that, I think Missing Curfew on Instagram had the full opening. They reposted on their reels on Instagram. Oh my God! Like, what a way to kick things off. And yeah, and then like we said, like, you get that early power play with the high stick on McKinnon, and 12 seconds the puck was in the back of the net, and it was the three guys we wanted it to be. McDavid to Crosby, and just that little move he makes out of the corner, Huss. Like, so he gets the puck from McDavid, and he's in just a no man's land just behind the goal line, and he just pushes it back to McDavid, and then just slides up like 2 strides just to where he can get a puck across. McDavid hits him with a perfect pass. He spins the thing around, and the Sid backhand is so lethal. Backhand right to McKinnon's stick. Like, I've seen all the angles of that goal, and just what a way to kick off this tournament after a lot of doubt that it was going to be anything worthwhile watching. Now it's exciting because, Canada has 2 points. Sweden has 1. The U.S. is going to play Finland tonight. We got the U.S. and Canada coming up on Saturday. And then by the time we get to Boston, Huss, like, there's going to be a lot that still needs to happen on Monday with that doubleheader. And to see what's going to happen for the Thursday final.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, just the fact that game went to OT last night. And I'm hoping that maybe this tournament will be the kick in the ass that the NHL Board of Governors, GMs, Commissioner need to realize that the NHL will be better for it if they move to every game being worth 3 points. Like, it is a joke that you can wax a team 10-0 and you get the same reward as beating a team in a shootout.
Well, that's
or
the thing.
In 3-on-3 overtime.
If it was still ties, right? Like, say you got a tie, 1-1 makes sense in a tie because the game's worth 2 points.
For sure.
But the minute you're giving someone a point to go to overtime, then you're not rewarding a team for winning in regulation. I know that's like the tiebreaker is regulation, overtime wins, or whatever it is, but it doesn't do it full justice. And we talked about this, Huss. We're like, it feels like a couple years now. Like, and I'm sure you've been beating this drum for a long time. Like, why they haven't gone to the 3-point system is beyond me. Let's not worry about, the points record books and all that kind of stuff. Let's just focus on what makes the most sense. If you're rewarding a team with a point in overtime and 2 points for an overtime win, then the game is worth 3 points, which means a regulation win should be 3 points. It's super simple. That's the one rule that absolutely needs to be fixed. We talked about the 10-minute 3-on-3 last night in our group chat. I don't think that's going to happen. Like you said, the players probably won't agree to that. It's because it's too long. McKinnon even said it was a little too much. He was pretty gassed by the end of it. And that's fine. I mean, I think you can stick to what the overtime is for the regular season. We still have the great postseason overtime. Yeah. 5-on-5 till someone scores. So that's fine. 3-point system needs to be in place.
And listen, I know there's a lot of people that slag the shootout. I'm totally here for the shootout as opposed to just going home and it being a tie. Like, to be honest, seeing the best players in the world go on breakaways against the top goalies. I mean, as someone that buys tickets to all the games, I'm here for it. I certainly don't want a playoff game decided that way. And I mean, I wouldn't also want a playoff game decided in 3-on-3 overtime because I think it's sort of manufactured. We don't have to worry about that in the playoffs. We're talking about the regular season. You're exactly right. If you want to talk and compare historical records, all you need to do is just basically take what you would have in the 3-point games, compare them, and it'd be very simple to say who won more games in regulation, all of that. You could extrapolate every season's historical records to what they would be in the 3-point system. Like, that to me is a non-starter. The one reason, and again, we'll kind of get off this, but I mean, I've asked the commissioner about this. I've had beers with Bill Daly and said, Bill, can we, for a second, like, what needs to happen to make this? Here's why. You look in the East right now. Ottawa has 62. Detroit has 61. Columbus and Boston have 60. Rangers 58. Islanders 57. The way the NHL does it right now with the loser point and only giving 2 points creates a false parity, if you will. And it keeps more teams sort of in it. At least it looks that way. But the argument is at the end, if you actually really did need to make up points on teams, winning your divisional games in regulation and making up 3 while they get 0 would be absolutely huge. And the other benefit to this as well, like, just watch at some point in the next couple of weeks, we'll have Ottawa or Detroit or one of these teams that's in a real tight fight in the East play, I don't know, Vancouver, Calgary, Utah, one of these teams in the West, and it'll be 1-1. And with 5 minutes left in the game, both teams aren't even going to try to score. They're just going to make sure that they get their point. And then you got a 50-50 chance basically at making it 2. It's the regulation losses right now that really kill you in the NHL. So anyways, I do hope that is something that we might get a little bit more steam on. I'm just looking at these comments on the Anthem last night. The Anthem was horrendous. That was less than ideal. Lars Y nailed it, Huss. That was brutal. LOL. They found the only nervous person with a chest cold in Montreal to sing that. There are some good ones. And I don't know what the U.S. anthem like tonight. Like, knowing those fans, they probably will give it to them pretty good. Like, I thought maybe, I mean, if the tariffs had already gone in, it would have been an absolute zoo.
Yeah.
I I don't know whether it'll be as bad tonight against the Finns, but I think the fans will be cheering for Finland for the most part. But Jake, I mean, after what we saw last night, I can't imagine how bananas Montreal is going to be on Saturday night. And then, I mean, for us next week to be there to see these teams. And I mean, it's got to be Canada, USA. But I think, we'll see what USA does tonight and what happens on Saturday. The great thing about that 3-point system, the fact that both Canada and Sweden aren't getting 3 points, it made that extra point, like winning in overtime, absolutely massive. And I think that Canada, regardless of what happens in their game against the U.S., I would think 5 points probably gets you in, assuming the U.S. But the thing is, Canada will play that game first. Then I think no matter what, when we're there on Monday night, that USA-Sweden game is going to be very impactful for both teams, whether USA goes through or Sweden goes through, assuming what Canada does. But I think the format of this is great. It's short, sure, but we saw last night that every single shift matters right now. And listen, let's give credit to the Swedes. They did not look good. They did not look as ready as Canada did at the start, but they did their best to come back. And tell you what, that team is not going to be an easy out for the Americans on Monday. And obviously they're playing the Finns on Saturday earlier on.
Yeah, Huss, maybe let's get into what your thoughts were on Binnington. Would you make a change going to Saturday? Obviously, he had some nice moments in overtime. He made some big saves, like no doubt there. That second goal, I know Kempe's got a great shot, but feels like he had to have it. I want to say that Brodin one had a little bit of movement. I don't see a lot of people talking about it. It just didn't look like it came off the stick clean. It felt like it hit something.
I thought it hit another stick. Like
I thought so too.
Just after it went off of his blade, it hit something and then sort of knuckled right over his shoulder.
Because it just caught him over the shoulder and just under the bar. Like it couldn't have been in a better spot. So I don't know if I'd blame him fully for that one. And then the third one was he was just left out to dry. But that second one was a little shaky. Sweden gets back into the game. I mean, Gustafsson made a huge saves on Taves at one point. The one where it went Marner to McDavid, just one touch to Taves. And I don't think he got all of it, but he got enough. And Gustafsson got a great save on that one. I don't know. What are your thoughts? That's a big conversation right now on Twitter is, should they make a move? Or, Binner's got a game. He's got an idea. He's a guy who's won a Stanley Cup. Although so is Aiden Hill.
So was Hill.
Like, would you go to Binnington once again because he's got some experience in this? Would you give Hill a shot? What would you do if you're John Cooper?
I'll preface this that it is a very, very difficult decision because I think there's valid arguments on both sides. I do sort of like the idea of putting Hill in on Saturday, knowing that if he plays very well and they win, they're in a great spot to be in the final, and he's just had success against the United States. If he doesn't play well and they don't get the result they need, you go back to Binnington for the game against Finland, needing a win, assuming that you get it, and you're in the final, and you've got Binnington that has not yet played the United States, and he's got 2 wins under his belt. Like, I think it gives Coop, because, I mean, without a Hellebuck in net where you know who your guy is, I mean, I think it was, I was a little surprised that Binnington got to start right out the get-go. I'm also surprised Logan Thompson's not on the team. It's another question, another conversation. But, I mean, to me, it wasn't clearly it was Binnington and then everybody else. So with the game that he played, you give the other guy an opportunity to get in there, and then, depending on what happens, play the game against Finland, and then the final.
Yeah, I think that's my move too. I think Binnington didn't play a clean enough game that would warrant deserving the start against the U.S. And I think in a tournament like this, especially in that U.S. game, I think you can afford to go to Hill. And like you said, if he plays great and they win, even if they win in regulation specifically, you know who your guy is probably the rest of the way. If he doesn't play so great, USA gets you, well, you got to win against Finland on Monday. There's no difference there, and you can go back to Binnington for that start. And I don't think he loses any confidence. Like he knows the structure of this. It's best on best. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I've been leaning Hill. I know people are pretty happy to see Binnington bounce back after kind of the Kempe goal there early in the third. But like I said, I just don't think it was enough to warrant a guaranteed start on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be paying attention to what comes out of Canadian practice over the next couple of days before the Saturday game. But tonight and we'll get to this in just a minute, USA and Finland. As far as last night with the bets going, here, and this actually is a good way to get into this topic, which has been mentioned. We did not cash our McKinnon and McDavid 2+ points in Canada win. Many people, not me, but many people are saying that Mr. McKinnon's a bit of a puck hog.
Yep.
Bit of a glory hound. It was wild in OT. He basically made 3 end-to-end rushes with no passes and then shot. And there was the 2-on-1 with McDavid. I will defend him a little bit in this case, is that I thought the defense was playing McDavid pretty well and basically leaving him the shot, and credit to Gustafsson for making the save. But it was funny how you see the way McKinnon was doing things, and then Sid finally. By the way, what the hell took so long for Sid to get out in overtime?
What was that all about? I was like, what's going on with Sid? Why did it take him to
I'm not sure they think he still has the wheels.
6-minute mark of OT to be out there.
Everyone is like, where the hell is Sidney? And of course he gets, and can we just appreciate the greatness of Crosby for a minute? The play that he made on Marner's OT winner was so low-key brilliant. He knows that he's towards the end of the shift. He knows what's happening. He gets the puck. He does that loop. He goes in and he makes a point of knowing exactly where the players are by going towards them. He forces them back, then does like eyes in the back of his head, sees Marner there, the long drop pass, and continues to go into the zone, pushing those guys back a little further, does his little loop around, times it perfectly, so he's out changing as Marner comes in, and then it's done. Not quite on the level of the greatest assist, in my opinion, in international hockey history. That wasn't an assist. The infamous Mario Lemieux fake shot, letting it go through his legs, but when Paul Correa scored in 2002, look it up if you're young and you haven't seen it before. Just put Mario Lemieux through the legs Canada or something like that. Sid did get the assist on this, but his positioning, the way he played that, gave Marner a little more room, a little more speed, and it could not have been played more perfectly. And then shout out to your boy Mitchie, who ended up being the hero after not entirely, I think, being one of the best players on the ice up until that point.
No, yeah, not Marner's best outing, and maybe that's something we can get into as well, Huss, is, in such a short tournament. I know, I think George said it in the chat, like, short tourney, he wants to stand pat, keep the same goalie. Like, how much line shifting are you doing if you're John Cooper? You just kind of seen what you got. I don't understand, like, the fact that people are complaining, like, well, McDavid needs better line mates. It's like, well, isn't McDavid the guy who's supposed to make his line mates better? Like, to me, that's the reason why Zach Hyman was able to score 50 goals last year, is that he gets to play on a line with Connor McDavid. For all those years, it's the same Crosby theory that, Crosby made the guys around him better. Think about Chris Kunitz. Think about some of these other guys. Gensel. Not that Gensel's not a bad player, but, like, think about how he can elevate people's games. I'm totally fine if they move Marner off the McDavid line and they get someone else in there. Like, but who is it is the question, right, Huss? Like, that's fine. If you don't want Marner on McDavid's line, I'm totally fine with that. He had a rough game, had the game winner. That's fine. Who goes with McDavid then if it's not Marner? I'd like to hear from the people in the chat, because I know that's the discourse online, is that you got to get McDavid off on a different line mates. It's like, okay, but, like, McDavid's the guy who's supposed to elevate the people around him. So, if it's a speed issue, then maybe it's McKinnon. But do you want McKinnon and McDavid stacked in the same line? That slows down your second line. Like,
No,
I don't know.
no.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I'm not touching the Sid, McKinnon,
No,
and
I wouldn't
Crosby
either.
line. That's not getting touched. Listen, if you wanted to move
Stone, sorry, I'm just like Stone is slow. I don't think Stone's going to be any better than Marner on that McDavid line. Marchand, I don't mind though from Hydro there in the chat. Sorry, just looking at.
Yeah, I
what
mean,
people
like,
say.
who are the options? I mean, Braden Point's pretty much. I mean, I guess you could move him to the right side, and then find someone to go in the middle of that checking line. With Marchand and Jarvis. Marchand's been known to score some big goals in this. I mean, I think you could probably make an argument that you could move him over to the right side. But to be honest, at this point, I mean, Mitch had a slow start. He also scored the winning goal. It wasn't like McDavid wasn't dangerous in the game last night. I don't think I would change things. If anything,
It's also their first time playing
again,
together, Huss.
Yeah.
Like we're talking, like I know people like want it to be like this perfect, symmetry, but it's the first time in game playing together. Like you do have to gain a little bit of chemistry. And I think the minute you start changing up the lines, like I don't think McDavid's going to jump on someone else's line and immediately have more chemistry. Now, why is no one talking about Sam Reinhart? He was pretty invisible last night. Guy who got 58 goals last year, 59 goals last year on a line with McDavid. Why is no one talking about him? It's because everyone hates Mitch Marner because he plays for the Leafs.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to dispute that there's something to that. As I said, I think they need more from both of those guys. And it's not a matter of like, we're not carrying 20 forwards here. This is the group. Like I could see Bennett going in potentially for Konechny in the game against the US. Might be a little rougher, a little more intense. That's where Bennett could go. But I would be surprised actually if they change much. I mean, where they have to worry about is the blue line right now. Of course, with Theodore out, he's going to his spot's going to be taken place by Travis Sanheim, who will play with Drew Doughty on that third pairing, and we'll see the two Avs, Taves and McCarr play together, and we'll see our guy Josh Morrissey along with Colton Parayko. But as far as the bets last night, we didn't get the partner parlay. We had like the best start to the tournament possible. The Nate McKinnon first goal cashes in the first minute. So we're in a very nice spot with that. The other one, and shout out to Patty for pointing this out to me. One of my favorite combo cards in a long time. Connor McDavid to get a point, and Alistair Johnson will not get booked. This is a nice boost up to minus 104. How do we not take that? So that one cashed. And the Goal Harbor was another winner last night with those two guys making it happen.
Yeah, it was a real nice one there. The fact that the Goal Harbor came on a Sidney Crosby pass over to McKinnon in the first, minute or two of the game was a pretty nice moment for anyone that got on that even money play. I was just reading some of the chat here. Big Ukes trolling me now. He said future Oiler Mitch Marner will be just fine on that line. Let Puck Hog McKinnon play with Marner. Give McJesus Crosby.
Miller Time 1980, a great one. I mean, just when we were talking about who could go up and play with on the right side, Scheifele should be here for crying out loud. Can play center or right wing. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully he's just in frick you mode for the rest of the season.
And I thought your guy
Morrissey
Morrissey played really, really well. Like Morrissey, I mean,
people don't see him enough. They don't know how good he is.
I don't watch a ton of Jets hockey. Like that's no offense. I don't watch a lot of hockey that's not Leafs hockey. So, it is what it is. But I thought Morrissey was a real strong player. Like some good hits, some good offensive zone play. Like he can do it in every facet of the game. Like he's a really, really solid guy back there. It's clear why he's on the team. And like you said, Huss, I don't know how Scheifele's not here right now. I know some people are pretty mad about the bottom six. The thing is, the bottom six is built to play bottom six hockey, play good defense. We got a point to Marchand goal. That was nice. Sorelli had a good kill there. I think with Point or Hagel late in the game. It was like 7 minutes to go and we took a penalty. I That's the thing. You can't just stack a team full of stars. I do think Scheifele, though, needs to be here in some facet. But, we're working with what we got. This is another thing, Huss. So Theodore goes down, and there's nothing in place where you can bring in another guy. Unless, not that we're wishing upon this at all, if there's an injury to another defenseman, you then do have the possibility to bring someone in. So you're allowed to contact your next in line. I read this today from Chris Johnson. So you're allowed to contact your next in line. Say it's Mackenzie Weegar, for argument's sake. Hey, Weegar, we need you on standby just in case something else happens. And then say Doughty's not feeling too good or something happens, then you can slide in that sixth defenseman. That's the only case in which you can do that. But if you're a sixth defenseman, if you got 6 healthy defensemen on your roster, those are your 6 defensemen the rest of the way. So we'll have to see what Sanheim looks like in the game against the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not ideal. And I don't know why. I guess they just didn't want to bring more guys that weren't going to play because they'd missed their break or whatever. But you would think that you would at least have 2 extra forwards and 2 extra defensemen.
Right.
I mean, just for the sake of the event and everything. But that isn't the case. So we got a game tonight. And I know Canada's not playing, but I'm just as fired up to see this game as maybe not quite as I was last night, but pretty damn close. We've got the USA as a pretty big favorite, minus 357 over Finland. Finland by far the longest shot in the tournament. They were 10-1 by the time we went in. Total in the game is over 5.5, and the over is at minus 131. It's likely we'll see a matchup that we see multiple times a year. Connor Hellebuck versus UC Saros.
Mm-hmm.
USA on the puck line is minus 128. One of the funny things about the line movement yesterday, Jake, that the money line didn't really move. The puck line moved big time. I don't know if you noticed. I mean, when we did the lock shop, the puck line was in and around plus 115 for Canada. And it was, I think, minus 111 by the time it went off. So you could see a lot of people were like, I'm just going to bet Canada puck line. I'm not sure whether people are realizing just how good the Swedes and the Finns are, even with the Finns injuries. You might be able, like Finland plus 1.5. It's a very proud group. They've had great international success together. We'll see that. But what are you thinking for tonight as far as this game? Is it USA all the way?
Yeah, I have a hard time getting off USA. Obviously, like the money line, you're not even going to touch that. It might be another prop night for me. I guess you could take the puck line, still almost minus 130 there with the US. I don't think Finland's going to go down without a fight. Don't get me wrong. I think they can absolutely be in this game. I just don't know how much I trust them. I think we can clearly agree USA is much deeper than Finland. Finland has no Heiskanen either. That's going to be a hit to them on the back end. Just looking at some of the goal props right now. Your guy, Kyle Connor, plus 185. My guy, Matthews, top of the list, plus 147. Gensel on the line with Hughes and Matthews. He's got plus 235. I don't mind the Eichel number. Eichel to score plus 240. He's on that first line between Connor and Tkachuk. I think Kachuk's going to be one of those guys, working the boards, working inside, and feeding the pucks to guys like Connor and Eichel. So I don't mind that number. Maybe an Eichel goal plus 240 is not bad. Let's see some of the point numbers. Maybe a defenseman.
While you pull those up, let me just fill people in, especially for the ones that aren't watching. Here's how the lines are. Jake just mentioned KFC, Kyle Connor on the wing, Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Eichel in the middle, top line. Captain Austin Matthews with Jack Hughes and Jake Gensel, line number 2. Number 3, man, this team is good. JT Miller in the middle of Matt Boldy and Brady Tkachuk. And their fourth line is Trocheck, Brock Nelson, and Dylan Larkin. I mean, they are deep. Defense pairings, Werenski and McAvoy, Slavin and Adam Fox, Hannafin and Brock Faber. The power play for USA, and this is one thing why Hopefully Kyle Connor can do it in regulation because he's not on the first power play unit. They've got Gensel there. So it's Tkachuk, Gensel, Matthews, Eichel, Adam Fox. And then the second power play unit is Tkachuk, Boldy, Kyle Connor, Jack Hughes, and Zach Werenski. As far as the Finns go, and again, we mentioned that the Finns' defense core really took a hit. But they still got Barkov in the middle, or as good a two-way center as there is in hockey right now, with Rantanen and Letkinen on the side. Line 2 is going to be Aho, Laine, and Rupi Hintz. Lundell, Luosterainen, and Michael Granlund. And then Eric Halla, Joel Armia, and Teuvo Teravainen. It's the defense, I think, that makes people nervous, and these guys are really going to be up against it tonight. Nico Mikkola and Esa Lindell, Urho Vakanainen, Nicholas Matinpalo, Oli Mata, Henry Jokiharju.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that if you're looking for point props, you could. I like some of these top Finnish players. I think you're going to look at that and see those top two lines, and whether it's Hintz, Aho, Laine, you never know what you're going to get from him, but Barkov in particular and Rantanen. Like, I do think that they'll be able to manufacture a goal or two, and I think it's a pretty safe bet that it'll be those top guys. The power play for Finland, Aho, Hintz, Rantanen, Laine, Barkov. Pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, listen, they're top heavy for sure, right? Like, the Finnish team is going to be solid when their big guys are on the ice. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens when, that third pairing gets out there and, the bottom six get out there, and, we're going to have to see what the matchups look like. One guy, I know we're just talking about Finland, but one guy I don't mind for a point tonight, -125, Zach Werenski. This guy has had an unbelievable season in Columbus, mind you. 59 points in 55 games. I believe he's second in defenseman scoring right now behind Cale Makar. Like, this guy is legit. He's a legit number one in Columbus. He's had a great season. And, an under-the-radar guy because he plays in a market like Columbus. I don't mind him getting a point tonight, -125. You did say he's on that second power play. I don't know much. Like, what did we see? 2 penalties last night, Huss? I don't know if power play works.
They certainly let him play.
We're going to see.
Oh, by the way, just on that note, the Swedes did get screwed big time in OT. Like, a guy literally jumps off the bench and intercepts the puck.
Yeah.
And no OT. It was so funny because I'm so used to all the bitching about the refs because of a certain football team that I support. Funny how there wasn't a lot of outrage in Canada last night about that play. Funny how we see things differently. But for the most part, I think they're going to try to do everything they can to let the players decide this, whether you think that's the right thing to do or not.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think it's leave it up to the players. Like you said, I think it was one power play aside last night. So, we're even there. I don't know who the home team's going to be. I think someone asked that. Joe in the chat asked who the home team is. I'm not exactly sure. I guess that'll be the last change.
USA is on the bottom, so I would say maybe it's USA tonight.
Yeah, that probably makes the most sense. So USA tonight, and then we probably get the home game in Montreal on Saturday would be my guess, right? So
kind of funny how the draw worked out. We just focusing on Canada and the United States, but tough one for Sweden. They play Canada in Canada. Mm-hmm. And then their round robin game against the U.S. is in the U.S., whereas Finland gets the Americans in Canada and the Canadians in the USA.
Yeah, one team's bound to have it that way, right? So, you can make the argument for USA that they could have got the USA Canada game in Boston and they got it in Montreal instead. So you're not going to have the crowd on your side for that one.
They get the final though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if they make the final. Got to see what happens, Huss. Got to see what happens. Yeah, listen, I'm excited, Huss. I don't know, any props that stick out to you? Just sifting through this list here?
Listen, and you guys know I'm a Hellebuck guy. I've got the Hellebuck jersey back there for tonight, but I think there's real value on Rupi Hintz and Aho are both plus money to get a point.
Yep.
If you want a more solid one, I mean, I think Barkov at minus 130. I think all of those players point-wise are good.
Even Rantanen minus 127 is not bad.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Rantanen. I think he should be priced a little closer to Aho and Hintz, to be honest with you. Although I guess he is playing with Barkov. But I mean, I'll be on the Kyle Connor prop. And speaking of which, there still are futures for Team USA out there right now. And I'm just looking. The Kyle Connor number. Yeah, Kyle Connor points in the tournament. I'm already on this. You can still get it. Even money on over 3.5. Rupee Hintz points in the tournament, minus 132 on over 1.5. I do like that one. Barkov's over 3.5 plus 165 if you want a longer shot. Eichel's over 3.5 is minus 133. These are all for points. And then for goals,
I don't think the goals ones are up anymore.
No, but you can still bet the top goal scorer on USA. Matthews is 3-1. Hughes is plus 650. Connor is 7-1. And I actually have that other prop for Connor, 16-1 to lead the tournament in goal scoring. But there's a lot of, Rantanen's the favorite for Finland, a top goal scorer, 450. Laine's 550. Aho's 550. Barkov's 650. Letkinen is plus 850. Rupee Hintz is 9-1. I don't know what's because we see so much of Dallas in the Central Division. He's an absolute stud. I would not mind him. God, that reminds me. Jason Robertson didn't make the team. That's how good the U.S. No, he did. He had a brutal start to the season, granted. He did, if anything, he played his way off of the team. But man, even without Canada in the game tonight, we've got some amazing players to watch and to bet on. What's the exclusive situation tonight?
I think we got some combos on the way. I'll probably do some exclusives here in a bit. I think it's been a bit of a busy morning here, just getting back into it. So I believe there's combos ready. They just need to be pushed through to the homepage there. So keep your eyes peeled.
How about this?
I might need a refresh.
How about this? I'm gonna go the other side of USA running away with it. What do you think of a Finland plus 1.5 at plus 5? We plug that in. And then let's see, what do we got for points here? Barkov and Aho. How about that? Finland plus 1.5. Barkov point, Aho point.
Yeah, we can get that up. A little lock shop play for the day. And sorry, I didn't have my my Coolbet refresh here. We do have some combos ready to go. So we got a super boost. We talked about Barkov already. Barkov and Matthews both to record a point. That's from plus 157 up to plus 207. We've got a Stars and Snipes. Kyle Connor and Matthews both to score. That's our guys there, us. Plus 603 up to 693. Points from the point. Werenski, a guy I already talked about, and Adam Fox both to record a point. That's plus 211 up from plus 184. Our shots. Rantanen, Kyle Connor, and Jack Eichel all over 2.5 shots. That's up to plus 615 from plus 534. And the last one is the Bash Bros. I love this. Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, both to record a point from plus 179 up to plus 206. So some options there in the combos. And we'll get the lock shot parlay up. We're going to go Barkov point, Aho point, Finland plus 1.5. See if they can keep it within 1 against the U.S. and have their big guys kind of lead the way.
Don't forget, everyone, the final option in the combo card, if you haven't bet it already, the Lock Shop Bowl, Western Conference Final, Oilers to make the Western Conference Final. Jets to make the Western Conference Final. Nice boost on that from 725 to plus 825. We got any early results? We did a bunch of picks yesterday for
Yeah, I was just going to say, anything on the Jenny? Looks like they're just getting off.
Yeah, very, very early at the Genesis. Well, Rory's got a birdie early on. Pendy's got a couple. I think it's very, very windy. Only 3 guys that have gotten a birdie. Henley, Benyon, Denny McCarthy. See, Akshay's there. Now, what about Liv? Has that already...
They do Fridays, no? Don't they start on Fridays into Sundays?
Oh, yeah, of course. They only do
54 holes.
So it's starting in 6 hours. So actually, just while we're at it, we've got just a couple of minutes here. Let's see if we've had any changes in the odds here. Rahm is still your favorite at plus 550. Hatton and Joachim Neiman 8-1. Bryson 9-1. And then the top Aussie there, Cam Smith 12-1. It's amazing. Like they have so many talented players. It's smaller fields, and yet like Brooks Koepka is still getting 18-1. He's not that low in majors.
Yeah, that's because I think Brooks still has that mentality, the old Brooks mentality. That's just like get through your mandatory tournaments, play to win a major, and I think that's kind of the way Brooks works. I was just looking in the chat. Maverick said, "Where's the Four Nations deposit match?" We didn't have a deposit match for Four Nations. We do have the old bet insurance, I believe, going on right now. So we did a lot of Four Nations chat. If you bet $30 or at least $30, I think it's anywhere between 30 and like 300 or whatever you're responsibly. Bet $30 on any Four Nations match, minimum odds minus 125. And then you opt in as well using the code 4Nations25. And then you tick the Four Nations cash back. If your bet loses, you get 50% of your stake back up to $30. So say you put $30 down on like Kyle Connor goal tonight.
Yeah.
Kyle doesn't score. You get $15 back as a cash back bet that you can use somewhere else on that bet. So you'll get that once this week. I believe it runs till Sunday. And then when we reset Monday and get to Boston, there'll be another one as well. So you get that offer twice. So if you want to hold on to your second one for finals, you can do that. Maybe you haven't used yours yet. You can use it for US Canada, or use it tonight if you feel free on US Finland.
So check that out in the promotions. For you hoop heads, 5 games in the NBA tonight. The Warriors plus 185 on the road against the Houston Rockets. Rockets have actually all of a sudden become good. Minus 222 for Houston. Sacramento's minus 312 in New Orleans against the pitiful Pelicans. OKC at the Mavs. Mavs plus 245. Kyrie Irving looked amazing last night, but back-to-backs, good team in OKC. OKC's minus 303. Miami Heat minus 118 against the Dallas Mavericks. I think I said Mavericks.
Yeah,
was the OKC's at the Timberwolves, excuse me on that. So yeah, Mavs home to the Heat. Mavs even money, Heat minus 118. And then the LA Clippers minus 400 favorites against the lottery-bound Utah Jazz. But that's about it. What's your call tonight? Let's get a score here. A call, Jake.
Well, in honor of your parlay and your guy Helly, let's go 3-2 US. Now, this is another thing, Huss. I know we only got like a couple minutes. What's the best scenario for Canada? Is it a U.S. regulation win, keep Finland just off the board? Or would an overtime game benefit Canada in the sense that the U.S. can't have more than 2 points in an overtime win, but then Finland is on the board with a point? Like, is there any thoughts there? I was thinking about this last night.
I mean, I expect the U.S. to be in the final. So, I mean,
Right.
I think U.S. beating Finns, who are the lowest seed, I think that's fine. I mean, the job for Canada is to stay ahead of Sweden with the 1 point advantage, which would mean having a better result or even result against the States as they do and beating the Finns. And if that's the case, they'll take care of business.
Right. Yeah,
But-
so then probably we'd be fine with the U.S. in reg. So let's go U.S. 3-2 in reg, but the 2 goals for Finland have
Our guys.
Aho and Barkov connected.
And I mean, I'd love to see Kyle Connor. He's plus 185 to score. And he's done a lot of scoring on UC Saros in the past, which, you sees that guy a lot, knows him well. Plus 185. We'll be back in that one here in Winnipeg. And then obviously all the props, whether it's the Connor points for the tournament or the goal scoring props. He's 7-1 to be the top goal scorer for the United States. 16-1 for the tourney. Still got some futures on the Florida and U.S. teams you can get in before tonight. And again, tonight's face-off is just after 7 p.m. I don't think we'll have as long of a pregame ceremony tonight as we did last night. But USA minus 357 and Finland plus 285. Jake, great stuff. I think we did just lose Jake, but perfect timing. He had to go. We got to go. Winnipeg Sports Talk's coming up. We'll have tons more on the Four Nations. Dennis Bernstein is going to join us. Jamie Thomas, both from Montreal. So we'll dive in on that top to bottom coverage of Canada's win last night and a couple Jets players playing for USA this evening in the USA-Finland game. For Jake Boland Moss, I'm Huss. Dusty, feel better. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Everybody, thanks for hanging with us in the Lock Shop. Now back to the fellas at EST.